Okay, let's do today's reading. It's drizzling outside. You know, one day I watched a video, a few kids, they playing together. Then they argued about it's raining or drizzling. Then one boy said, "It's drizzling." My mom said, it is drizzle." Then the other little girl said, "My mom said it's raining." So they argued. Then the girl, poke the boy um, on his heart, chest, I think chest. Then poke him. Then the boy very sad. "She poked my heart. She poked my heart." It's so funny. I think it's in child service. I think it's the educator filmed it. I think the educator must ask the parents' permission to post those on YouTube. It's so funny. He poked my heart. Today I woke up pretty early and took my two girls go for a walk. Then, my Sherry, she feel not good with her paw, her her paw, front paw, the little, I think it's left paw, feel not good with her right paw because we went to a creek. We went to a creek yesterday and maybe hurt her paw because her paw very soft, not like Bessie. Bessie's paw very hard, so it's can protect her from getting hurt. But Sherry's paw very soft, so it's easily get hurt. Even we went to beach, then there are a lot of shell on the beach, so sometimes she got hurt with her paw. Okay, let's read. Last time I don't think yesterday. Last time we already read that Cyrus and his company they went to the mountain, the summit of the mountain, and they survey around and make a map of the island. Now they know they are islanders. Yes, they are islanders because it is an island. That's no, uh, but anyway, I think if we want to we be through on an island, uh, 3 or 4 people or 1 people, then we were thrown on an island. We can feed us. We can feed us. We can survive. What the meaning? If we survive, what's the meaning? Should we keep ourselves alive? With the hope someone will pick us up, or it's only no, or if there is no hope for us to get out of this situation. What should we do? We just keep ourselves alive? Or we gone crazy? I don't know. When I think about we learned a novel, Charlotte's Web. I don't know. Do you know this novel, Charlotte's Web? Uh, the spider side. Um, being a spider, only catch and eat fly. It's no meaning. So Wilbur, helping Wilbur is the helping with Wilbur help her to find the meaning of her life. Is the meaning of help her find the meaning. It add the value of herself, of her life. So if we been thrown on an island, an isolated island, we keep alive? I think we should, because we still with hope someone will pick us up. If 3 or 4 people, at least we have someone to communicate. If only one, only me, only myself, I think still okay. Just like I do this video, no one watch, but I still do this one and speak to myself. Hope someone over there watch it, but if not, I still can do it. So the meaning is when I speak to myself, it make my my brain work, make me happier. Okay, I'll think about it and I will write something in Chinese maybe. Still I can make something uh, maybe in English. Okay, we'll see what will I do. Okay, let's read. Talking is easier. Just use those words I already know. Reading is not that easier. It's a lot of words I don't know. Okay, from here. Let's from here. Top, who poke his nose into every bush. They already descend from the mountain. So on their way back, Top can hunt some game for them and for their dinner or something. Okay. Top poke his nose in every bush. The reporter, Top who poked his nose into every bush. The reporter and the engineer went together. Gideon Spilett, ready to note every incident. The engineer silent for the most part, and only stepping aside to pick up one thing or another. mineral or vegetable substance. A mineral or the reporter and the engineer went together, Spilett ready to note every incident, the engineer silent for the most part, and only stepping aside to pick up. Oh, my poor girl, licking her paw. I will give her some medicine after my reading. The engineer silent for the most part, and only stepping aside to pick up one thing or another, a mineral or vegetable substance, which he put into his pocket without making any remark. Without making any remark, because the engineer, he was a scientist as well, so he pick out of things and he will know what he can do with those things. What can he be? What can he be picking up? Muttered Pencroft. I have looked in vain for anything that was the trouble of stooping for. I was looking. I was. I have looked in vain. I have looked in vain for anything that was the trouble of stooping for. Towards 10 o'clock, the little band. Towards 10 o'clock. Towards 10 o'clock, the little band descended. The little band descended the last declivities of Mount Franklin, the last declivities, 最后一个斜坡吧。Let's see. Let's check it. Declivity. 是的，斜坡，最后一个斜坡。Let's see. Acclivity 是 what？ 向上的斜坡。Acclivity， 是向上的斜坡。Oh my God， 这是向下的斜坡。And let's see. There's another. No. Acclivity， 这个是向下的斜坡，这个是向上的斜坡。Great。Like, let's see， 如果我要写 L， 它会不会告诉我错了？会告诉我错了。Great。So, descended the last declivity of Mount Franklin. As yet, the ground was scantily strewn with bushes and trees. As yet, the ground was scantily缺乏的、不足的。Scantily strewn. Scantiness. Scant 就是不足的 ，scantily 不足的 ，strewn 撒在上面 散落的，散播的。was scantily 不足的，散落的。We already 不足的，散落的。With bushes and trees, they were walking over yellowish. They were walking over yellowish calcinate earth. Calcinate 燃烧的产物，煅烧的产物。Scalcinate was scalcinate was
calcinate, calcinate,
scalcinate earth scalcinated 煅烧 scalcinated earth 燃烧的煅烧的产物 Scalcinated earth forming a plain of nearly a mile long, while extended to the edge of the wood. Great blocks of that basalt, which, according to Bischoff, takes 350 millions of years to cool, strewed the plain, very confused in some places. However, there were here no traces of lava. 火山岩 However, there were here no traces of lava, which was spread more particularly over the northern slope. However, there were here no traces of lava, which was spread more particularly over the northern slope. Cyrus Harding expected to reach, without indicate, the course of the creek, which he supposed flowed under the trees at the border of the plain, when he saw Herbert running hastily back, while Neb and the sailor were hiding behind the rocks. "What's the matter, my boy?" asked Spilett. "Smoke," replied Herbert. We have seen smoke among the rock, 100 paces from us." "Men in this place?" cried the reporter. We must avoid showing ourselves before knowing with whom we have to deal, replied Cyrus Harding. "I trust that there are no natives on this island. I dreamed that more than anything else. Where's Top? Top is on before." "I trust that there are no natives on this island. I dread them more than anything else." "Where's Top? Top is on before, and he doesn't bark?" "No." "That's strange. However, we must try to call him back." In a few moments, the engineer, Spilett, and Herbert had rejoined there are two companies, and like them, they kept out of sight behind the heaps of basalt of basalt. From thence, they clearly saw smoke of yellowish color rising in the air. Top was recalled by a slight whistle from his master, and the latter, signing to his companies to wait for him, glided away among the rocks. The colonists, motionless, anxiously awaited the result of this exploration, when a shot from the engineer made them hasten forward. They soon joined him. Okay, signing to his company to wait for him, slided away among the rocks. The the colonists motionless, anxiously awaited the result of this exploration, when a shot from the engineer made them hasten forward. Hasten forward. They soon joined him, and all at once struck with a disagreeable odor, which impregnated the atmosphere, which impregnated 一定是弥漫 impregnate， 是的 impregnated the atmosphere. The odor, easily recognized, was enough for the engineer to guess what the smoke was, which at first, not without cause, had startled him. The fire, said he, or rather the smoke, is produced by nature alone. There is a sulphur spring there. Which will cure all our sore throat. Captain, cried Pencroft, what a pity that I haven't got a cold. The settlers then directed their steps towards the place from which the smoke escaped. They there saw a sulphur spring, which flowed abundantly between the rocks, and its water discharged a strong sulphuric acid odor. After having absorbed the oxygen of the air. Cyrus Harding, dipping in his hand, felt the water oily to the touch. Cyrus Harding, dipping in his hand, felt the water oily to the touch. He tasted it and found it rather sweet. As to its temperature, that he esteemed 95 degree Fahrenheit. 这个 let's see Fahrenheit 华氏
Fahrenheit.
Okay. Close.
Fahrenheit.
Fahrenheit. Let's see. Fahrenheit. I know 摄氏，但是 I don't know. It's C. Fahrenheit. Herbert having asked on what he based this calculation. Herbert having asked on what he based this calculation. It's quite simple, my boy, said he, for in implying my hand into the water, I felt no sensation either of heat or cold. Therefore, it has the same temperature as the human body, which is about 95 degrees. The sulfur spring not being of any actual use to the settlers. The sulfur spring not being of any actual use to the settlers, they proceeded towards the thick border. They proceeded towards the thicker border of the forest, which began some hundred paces off. There, as they had conjectured, the water of the stream flowed clear and limpid. There, as they had conjectured, the water of the stream flowed clear and limpid between high bank of red earth, the color of which betrayed the presence of oxide of oil. From this color, the name of the Red Creek was immediately given to the watercourse. It was only a large stream, deep and clear, formed of the mountain water, which half river, half torrent. Here, rippling peacefully over the sand. Torrent, I think it's 海流 because half river. Let's see. Torrent. Hmm. 急流 half river, half torrent. Here rippling peacefully over the sand. There falling against the rock and dash down in a cascade. Run towards lake over a distance of mile and a half. Its brightest, that's bright 的，这个就太难读了。
Breadth.
breadth 的发音，但是 I think we can't hear it.
Breadth.
Its breadth varying from 30 to 40 feet. Its waters were sweet, and it was supposed that those of the lake was so also. A fortunate circumstance in the event of their finding on its borders a more suitable dwelling than the chimneys. its borders are more suitable dividing. Oh, really? As to the trees, which some hundreds feet downward shaded the bank of the creek, they belonged, for the most part, to the species which abound in the temperate zone of America and Tasmania, and no longer to those um, conifery observed. Let's see, what's conifery? Okay. To those conifery observed in those, okay, which abound, they belong to. As to the trees, which some hundreds, as to the trees, which some hundreds feet downward shaded the bank of the creek, they belonged for the most part to the species, belonged to the species which abound in the temperate zone of America and Tasmania, and no longer to those conifery observed in that portion of the island already explored to some miles from Prospect Hill. At this time of the year, the commencement at this time of the year, the commencement of the month of April, which present the month of October, which represent the month of October in this hemisphere. That is the beginning of autumn. They were no, it's not autumn. It's if October, Chun, October, it's still Chun, still spring. We began spring at September, October, and if Chu is around April. If okay, that's okay, but not Chu. Beginning of the autumn, they were still in full leaf. They consisted principally of kerosene, casuarina, and ecability, some of which next year would yield a sweet manna, similar to the manna of East. Okay. Clumps of Australia. Yes, 4月. Now, if 4月, we are April. Yes, autumn. 雪松.
Cedars.
Cedars, Australia, cedars rose on the slope bank, which were also covered with high grass called tussock in New Holland. 新荷兰 New Holland 哦，新荷兰是 New Zealand 吧 New Holland. But the coconut, so abundant in the archipelagos of the Pacific, seemed to be wanting in the island. The latitude doubtless being too low. What a pity, said Herbert, such a useful tree, and which has such beautiful nuts. As to the birds, they swarmed among the scanty branch of the pity and Nazi, which they, as to the birds, they swarmed among the scanty branch. Scanty branch, 不足的，是不足的。Scanty branch of the 这个 which didn't hinder the display of their wings, black, white, or gray cocotoes with plumage of all color, kingfishers of a sparkling green and crowned with red, blue lories, and various other birds appeared on all sides, as through a prism, fluttered about and producing a deafening clamor. Suddenly, a strange concert of discordant voice resounded in the midst of a thicket. The sailors heard successively the song of birds, the cry of quadruped,四重奏啊 the cry of quadruped and a sort of clicking which they might have believed to have escaped from the lip of a native. A cry of 四足动物
Quadruped.
Quadrupeds, and a sort of clicking which they might have believed to have escaped from the lip of a native. Neb and Herbert rushed towards the bush, forgetting even the most elementary principle of prudence. Happily, they found there neither a formidable wild beast nor a dangerous native. Prudence, and this means 小心的。 谨慎的、精明的。Yes. Prudence, happily forgotten, forgetting even the most elementary principle of prudence, of prudence, happily they found there either a formidable wild beast, nor a dangerous native, but merely half a dozen mocking and singing birds, known as mountain pheasant, mountain pheasant, mountain mountain 野鸡
Pheasant. Pheasant.
pheasant, mountain pheasant. Mountain pheasant 也是野鸡，是 a few skillful blows from a stick soon put an end to their concert. A few skillful blows from a stick soon put an end to their concert, and procured excellent food for the evening's dinner. And procured excellent food for the evening dinner. A few skillful blows from a stick soon put an end to their concert. And procured excellent food for evening dinner. Procure 为什么是 procure？ 取得、获得。Let's see, is it procure?
Procure.
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 Procure. Procure excellent food for the evening's dinner. Herbert also discovered some magnificent pigeons. Which breathed wings, some superbly crested, some superbly crested, others draped in green, some superbly crested, others draped in green, like they are congeners at Port Moncquer, congeners 同类 congener 同类 like they are congeners at congeners 同类 So you see this all 颜色 this congeners 同类 That's so good. So I can guess like they are congeners at Pork Macquarie, but it was impossible to reach them. All the crows and magpies which flew away in flocks. A charge of small shot A charge of small shot would have made great slaughter among this bird. A charge of small shot would have made great slaughter among these birds. But the hunters were still limited to sticks and stones, and this primitive weapon and these primitive weapons proved very insufficient, and this primitive weapon proved very insufficient. Primitive weapon 那个原始的，看都能猜出来了，原始的。And this primitive weapon proved very insufficient. Their insufficiency was still more clearly shown when a troop of quadrupeds, jumping, bounding, making leaps of 30 feet, regular flying mammifers fled over the thickets so quickly and at such a height that one would have thought that they passed from one tree to another like squirrels. Kangaroos, cried Herbert. Are they good to eat? asked Pencroft. Stewed, replied reporter. Their flesh is equal to the best venison. 鹿肉哦，鹿肉。Best venison. Spilett had not finished this exciting sentence when the sailor, followed by Neb and Herbert, darted on the kangaroo's track. Cyrus Harding called them back in vain, but it was in vain too for the hunter to pursue such agile game. Agile, 聪明的、机灵的，一定是机灵的、灵巧的。Such agile game. But it was in vain. Was in vain too. Let's make it sure. It's a wine. Vain.
Vain.
Vain. In vain.
Vain.
Vain. It's in vain too for the hunters to pursue such agile game, which went bounding away like balls. Like after a chase of 5 minutes, they lost their breath, and at the same time all sight of the creatures which disappeared in the wood. Top was not more successful than his masters. Captain, said Pencroft, when the engineer and the reporter had rejoined them. Captain, you see quite well. We can't get. Okay. You can't had. We can't get on unless we make a few guns. Captain, you see quite well we can't get on unless we make a few guns. Will that be possible? Perhaps, replied the engineer, but we will begin by first manufacturing some bows and arrows. And I don't doubt that you will become un- clever in use of them as the Australian hunters. Bows and arrows, said Pencroft scornfully. That's all very well for children. Don't be proud, friend Pencroft. Pencroft, replied the reporter. Bows and arrows were sufficient for centuries to stain the earth with blood, to stain the earth with blood. Powder is but a thing of yesterday, and war is as old as the human race, unhappily. Yes. Faith, that's true, Mr. Spilett, replied the sailor, and I always speak too quickly. You must excuse me. Meanwhile, Herbert Constant to his favorite science. Meanwhile, constant to his favorite science, natural history, revolted. Okay, so here is一个形容词。OK， 坚定。Meanwhile, Herbert, constant to his favorite science, natural history, reverted to the kangaroo, saying, reverted 转到这个话题，重新提到 reverted to the kangaroo, saying, besides, we had to deal just now with the species which is most difficult to catch. We had to deal just now with the species which is most difficult to catch. They were giants with long grey fur. But if I'm not mistaken, there exist black and red kangaroos, rock kangaroos, and red kangaroos, which are more easy to get hold of. It is reckoned that there are about a dozen species. Herbert, replied the sailor, sententiously. There is only one species of kangaroos to me, that is, kangaroo on the spit. And it's just the one we haven't got this evening. Of spit. That's kangaroo on the spit. And it's just, yeah, because our boy constant to his favorite science. So, but sailor, kangaroo on the spit. And it's just the one we haven't got this evening. They couldn't help laughing at Master Pencroft's new classification. The honest sailor didn't head. The honest sailor didn't hide his regret at being reduced for dinner to the singing pheasant, 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 singing pheasant. The honest sailor didn't hide his regret at being reduced for dinner to the singing pheasant, but fortune once more showed itself ob obliging to him. In fact, Top, who felt that his interest was concerned, went and ferreted everywhere with an instinct doubled by a ferocious appetite. It was even probable that if some piece of game did fall into his clutches, none would be left for the hunter. If Top was hunting on his own account, but Nab watched him and he did well. Towards 3 o'clock, the dog disappeared in the brushwood, and gruntings showed that he was engaged in a struggle with some animal. Nab rushed after him and soon saw Top eagerly devoting a quadruped, eagerly devoting a quadruped, which 10 seconds later would have been past recognizing really which 10 seconds later would have been past recognizing in Top's stomach. But fortunately, the dog had fallen down a brood, had fallen upon a brood, and besides the victim, he was devoting 2 other rodents. The animal in question belonged to the order. They strangled on the turf. And besides the victim, he was devouring 2 other rodents.你也吃雷动吗 ？rodent， 你也吃雷动。rodent， 你也吃雷动。And besides the victim he was devoting 2 other rodents. 2 other rodents, the animals in question belonged to that order. They strangled on the turf. On the turf, Nab reappeared triumphantly, holding one of the rodents in each hand. Their size exceeded that of a rabbit. Their size exceeded that of a rabbit. Their hair was yellow, mingled with green spots. And they had the merest ruddy rudiment of tail. Merest rudiment. Let's see, what's rudiment? Rudiment. 雏形，萌芽。Rudiment. The merest rudiment of tail. Of tail. The citizens of the Union. The citizens of the Union were at no loss for the right name of their rudent. The citizens, they were maros, a sort of agouti, a little larger than the congener, than the cogner of tropical country. Regular American rabbits with long ears draw regular American rabbits with long ear. Jaws armed on jaws armed on each side with 5 molars, which distinguish the agouti. Ha! Cried Pencroft. The roast have arrived, and now we can go home. The walk, interrupted for an instant, was resumed. The limpid water of the Red Creek flowed under an arc of banks and gigantic gum tree. Arc of and gum tree. Interrupt for an instant was resumed. The liquid water flowed under 这个 superb lilies rose to a height of superb lakes rose to a height of 20 feet. Other arborescent species unknown to the young naturalist bent over the stream, which could be heard murmuring beneath the bowl of wood.
Verdure. Verdure.
草木，青翠的草木。Verdure， 这是一个 noun， 青翠 ，no， 青翠的草木。Okay, so it is a noun， 这个不要搞错了啊。青翠的草木 ，Let's okay. Meanwhile, the stream grew much wider, and Cyrus Harding supposed that they would soon reach its mouth. In fact, on emerging from beneath a thick clump of beautiful trees, it suddenly appeared before their eyes. The explorers had arrived at the western shore of Lake Grant. Of Lake Grant. The place was well worth looking at. This extent of water of a circumference of nearly of a circumference of nearly 7 直径 circumference of nearly 7 miles and an area of 2 and an area of 200 feet acres reposed in a border of diversified trees Let's see circumference 不能是直径啊，我们因为圆周胸围。Reposed in a border of diversified trees. Towards the east, through a curtain. Towards the east, through a curtain of. Towards the east, through a curtain of verdure. Picturesquely, we learn a lot in Little Princess. Picturesquely raised in some places, sparkled and horizon of sea. The lake was curved at the north, which contrasted with the sharp. The lake was curved at the north, which contrasted with the sharp outline of its lower part. Numerous aquatic birds frequented the shores of the little Ontario, in which the thousand athletes of its American namesake were represented by a rock which emerged from its surface. American namesake were presented by a rock which emerged from its surface. Some 100 feet from the southern shore, there lived in harmony several couple of kingfishers, perched on a stone, grave motionless, watching for fish. They darting down. They plunged in with a sharp cry. And reappeared with their prey in their beak. On the shores and on the islets, strutted wild ducks, wild ducks, pelicans, water hens, red beaks, felidans, furnished with a tongue like a brush, and one or two specimens of the splendid manura, the tail of which expanded gracefully like a lyre. Like a lyre. I am not a liar. Like a lyre. I know lyre. Lyre, a kind of bird. Yeah, in Australia. As to the water of the lake, it was sweet, limpid, rather dark, and from certain bubblings, and the concentric circle and the concentric circles which crossed each other on the surface. It could not be thought that it abounded in fish. Oh. As to the water of the lake, it was sweet, limpid, 清澈的还是和缓的 limpid 清澈的 rather dark, and from certain bubblings, and the concentric circle 涟漪。同域同轴的。concentric circles which crossed each other on the surface. It could not be doubted that it abounded in fish. This lake is really beautiful. Sighed. Oh, this is a lake. So they say the circumference. Yes, because this is a lake. So it's a circumference. 周长。Yes. And the concentric circle. This lake is really beautiful, said Spilett. we could live on its borders. We will live here. We will live there, replied Harding. The settlers, wishing to return to Chimney by the shortest way, descended towards the angle formed on the source by the junction of the lake's bank. It was not without difficulty that they broke a path through the thickest. It was not without difficulty that they broke a path through the thickets and the through the thickets and the brushwood, which had never been cut aside by the hand of man, and they thus went towards the shore, so as to arrive at the north of Prospect Head. 2 miles were cleared in this direction, and then After they had passed the last curtain of trees, after they had passed the last curtain of trees, appeared the plateau, cap, uh, carpet, carpeted with turf, thick turf, and beyond that, the infinite sea. To return to the chimneys, it was enough to cross the plateaus. To return to the chimneys, it was enough to cross the plateau uh, obliquely for the space of a mile, and then to descend to the elbow formed by the first detour of the Mersey. But the engineer desired to know how and where the overplus of the water from the lake escaped, and the exploration was prolonged under the trees. But the engineer desired to know how and where the overplus of the water from the lake escaped, and the exploration was prolonged under the trees for a mile and a half towards the north. It was most probably that an overfall existed somewhere. It was most probably that an overfall existed. It was most probably that an overfall existed somewhere, and dodged this through a cleft in the gran- granite, uh, granite, and dodged this through a cleft in the granite. The lake was only, in short, an immense center basin, which was filled with degrees by the Greek, which was filled by degrees by the creek, and its water must necessarily pass to the sea by some fall, and its water must necessarily pass to the sea by some fall. If it was so, the engineer thought that it might perhaps be possible to utilize this fall and borrow its water, actually lost without profit to anyone. They continued then to follow the shore of Lake Grant by climbing the plateau. But after having gone miles in this direction, Cyrus Harding had not been able to discover the overfall, which, however, must exist somewhere. It was then 4:30. In order to prepare for dinner, it was necessary that the settlers should return to their dwelling. The little band retraced their steps, therefore, and by the left bank of the Mersey, Cyrus Harding and his companies arrived at the chimney. The fire was lighted, and Nab and Pencroft, on whom the functions of cook naturally they devolved. The fire was lighted, and Pencroft, Pencroft, on whom the function of cooks naturally devolved to the one in his um, quality of negro, to the other in that of sailor, quickly prepared some uh, broiled 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 ogety, to which they did great justice. The repast the repast at length terminated. The repast at at length terminated. At the moment when each one was about to give himself up to sleep, Cyrus Harding drew from his pocket little little specimens, little specimens of different sort of minerals, and just said, "My friends, this iron mineral, this is pyrite, this is clay, this is lime, and this is coal. Nature gave us these things. It's our business to make a right use of them. Tomorrow we will commence operation." Great. Then let's stop here. Then I will cook some breakfast because I am hungry.